Working for the rich and powerful can have perks, like flying around the world and a great salary, but those are not guarantees. Celebrities' assistants have to keep all sorts of secrets, and some are finally coming to light. Justin Bieber recently parted ways with his personal assistant, but some sources say that Justin had actually fired the man 5 years ago. The reason right now for the split is because the assistant was looking to focus on his acting career. He had been working for the famous couple since 2018. The downsizing seems to be a trend for Bieber lately. His team keeps getting smaller, and he recently unfollowed a bunch of past coworkers and friends, so this is actually not that out of the ordinary right now. Sources claiming to be close to the situation, of course, claim that the assistant actually left Bieber because they were worried about his erratic behavior as of late. But up next with Lady Gaga and the mess from 2013. A former assistant and friend filed a lawsuit back in 2011, but the ball wasn't rolling until a couple years later. The assistant, Jennifer O'Neill, was suing Gaga for unpaid overtime, an alleged 7,168 hours of it, which is almost $400,000. Gaga did end up sharing her side of the story in her deposition. The singer said that she doesn't pay overtime and never has, and this being the second time the assistant worked for her, she should have been familiar with that policy. Gaga also appeared to say O'Neill had it good because she was jetting around the world with her, sleeping in expensive hotels, and also literally sleeping in those beds. Plus, there was the food and the parties that she got to experience. Gaga even alleged that O'Neill asked famous designers to send her free things and used Gaga's discounts at their stores without permission. Now, the thing is, Gaga definitely said some rude things during this deposition, so it's clear that both sides had some stuff to work on. Gaga also said that O'Neill just wasn't a very good assistant, citing things like not helping the star get set up when traveling, which might seem a bit ridiculous, asking someone else to go get your toothbrush for you, but remember that Lady Gaga can't just walk down a street to the nearest corner store without risk of being mobbed by fans. Rumor is the assistant is writing a book about her experiences, but it's been over a decade now and crickets, so who knows if that's really happening in the end or if any of this even happened at all. Now, no one else on this list is going to have quite as much trouble as Taryn Manning's ex-assistant did. So much trouble that the pair ended up in court. When you hear celebrity assistant horror stories, it's usually things that are just kind of like weird situations like the Lady Gaga stuff, but it's rare that you hear about legit violence. Taryn Manning's assistant happened to be an unlucky one. The actress was charged back in 2012 with a misdemeanor after the assistant accused of coming into violent physical contact with her, restricting her airflow and scratching. Taryn's representation apparently kept downplaying the whole thing and even referred to the assistant as a member of the family, saying that this was all just personal issues. Still, the judge ordered the actress to stay away from her ex-assistant, and the assistant later ended up forgiving the star in the end. Now, I think we all remember the iconic film The Devil Wears Prada. Turns out that fiction was based on fact. The author was an assistant to Anna Wintour before writing the book, so it's safe to assume that she pulled from her personal experiences, which is probably why it's so good. Although, like most things, it's made larger than life for entertainment purposes. Although, I wouldn't be surprised if Wintour did have assistants on hand just to help her remember people's names. She is one of the most famous people in the fashion world after all. Moving on to Kim K's ex-assistant, who shared some interesting facts about how the woman looks so good all the time. At least, the word on the street is, it was an ex-assistant that said all this. The earliest mention I can find citing this simply says a source, but other articles are adamant that it was an ex-assistant. The secret in question is apparently when Kim K gets fat removed from her body, she allegedly freezes it to use in other spots on her body. Popular ways to use it would be like fillers or in rear enhancements. The source claimed that the latter was what Kim K used it for. The star is adamant that she does not have implants, so this would be an alternative should her body type not be natural. Of course, all this info came out roughly a decade ago and hasn't moved past speculation, so it's up to you what you want to think. Supermodel Naomi Campbell has made a name for herself as a supermodel fashion diva, but also seemingly a danger to those that she employs. Many employees have come forward with various stories of the supermodel acting rudely towards them. One personal assistant even called out the model for getting physically violent with her in 2000. Vanessa Frisbee claimed that she was attacked during an argument with the star. Of course, Campbell said this never happened and sued Frisbee, specifically for breach of contract. In the end, the case was thrown out. But then, another PA came forward in 2004. This time, the claim was they were held hostage in an LA hotel where a phone was thrown at them. Again, this was denied, and again, the case was dropped. But then here we are back at it in 2005, when another assistant accused the model of hurting her with a, and this is a direct quote, jewel-encrusted BlackBerry. Denied again. There were technically more people that accused the model of mean things, but those are all the assistants. Lindsay Lohan is doing quite well now, but it's hard to forget that she basically pinned her 2012 car crash on her assistant Gavin Doyle. Back in the early 2010s, Lohan's Porsche rear-ended a truck. The star allegedly told police that she was in the passenger seat, and Gavin Doyle, her assistant, was the driver. Except when police spoke to Gavin, his story was flipped. Eventually, through other evidence, police concluded that Gavin was telling the truth. Gavin ended up bailing Lohan out after it all, but she apparently was still angry with him considering she kicked him out of the car. The pair seemed to patch things up later on, but it was quite a moment while it was happening. One thing about the early 2000s, they were messy, and Jessica Simpson's past assistant was no stranger to being messy. The woman decided to speak to the star and spread some rumors about Simpson, like that she doesn't pay at restaurants because she believes her star power is good enough, which is completely wild to think about, so thank goodness there isn't much evidence out there to prove it. Of course, not trying to say that this never happened, I don't know, I wasn't there. However, there is one pretty famous restaurant story that makes me less inclined to believe this little piece of gossip. Last year, Simpson left a $300 tip on a $500 check with a sweet note. So, who knows what kind of person Simpson was in a restaurant 20 years ago, but today she seems like the right kind of guest. Madonna herself revealed that she has an assistant for a very specific and very strange role, the food police. When you're off traveling the world and performing for adoring crowds, you're thinking so much about others that you sometimes forget yourself. And for Madonna, that means she sometimes just forgets to eat. And hey, happens to the best of us. Plus, she's a perfectionist, so she wants to make sure everything on the tour is perfect, especially her eating patterns. And if you can afford to pay someone to check in on you, why not? They are also making sure she drinks water too, of course. Rumor is that Sarah Jessica Parker wants her assistants as smart as possible, which, that makes sense, but apparently an Ivy League education is practically a job offer. Parker is known for having really good relationships with her assistants. She was even a bridesmaid to a past assistant of hers. Although, what makes her celebrity secret my personal favorite of the list is it's a little bit out there. Somewhere along the way, a past staff member claimed that SJP practices witchcraft. Yeah, I fear something got a little bit lost in translation here. See, there's nothing online to suggest that Sarah Jessica Parker is a full witch, other than her role in Hocus Pocus, of course. My guess is things got a little murky when Sarah Jessica Parker learned of a past ancestor. She is actually related to a woman imprisoned during the Salem witch trials. So her Hocus Pocus character actually hits closer to home than she thought. And even if she is following her however many great-grandmother's footsteps and practicing a little witchcraft, good for her. But what do you think? Let us know, and if you're looking for more, check out the rest of the channel. Thanks for watching. Bye!